Welcome back to Solomon's Porch with your host Jason.
Have you had any M&Ms lately? Do they taste the same as they've always tasted?
I've never tasted
Or,
M&M.
or you've never had an M&M before?
The candy, M&M candy. Sure, yeah,
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 of
it's great.
course.
It's great. Actually, they had a popcorn flavor one. It's really good. I love butter popcorn
Hmm.
flavored stuff, and the candy corn M&Ms were great. They were fantastic. Welcome back to Solomon's Porch with your host Jason.
And um,
You need to read the
Sean,
tag.
Sean.
Read it right there on the screen, man.
Oh,
Your
it's right
name is on the
there.
screen. Look down. Can you see it?
It's
Look down.
it's
It's on your screen. So we are back with another round
mm,
five. Gotta change my screen ahead on news and reviews. So we're gonna be doing a round five this week. It's gonna be top albums in 2020. We're in 2021, and I think part of the struggle was what are we looking forward to in 2021, or what do we like to appreciate from 2020. And so we're gonna do our round five albums that came out in 2020. Some of these are gonna be like, yeah, I'm sure that would be on your list because we talked about them plenty last year.
a lot.
A lot. A couple of them, very much a lot. So, anyway, man, let's dive into it. Sean, you're number five, sir.
Well, our last round five, we were talking about our blessings, and I don't remember which number I put it on for, but it was probably five or four. But I really saw that this past year, whether it's because people were locked up inside, and so they got the creative juices flowing, they were forced to be able to do something else, or I don't know what it is, but it seemed like we had a lot of great music that released this year. And actually, most of it released kind of earlier in the year, so I don't think it really had much to do with COVID. But I felt like, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about our favorite albums that released this year. So not even just like favorite tracks or favorite artists, but the albums themselves. So as a whole, my number five, I'm going to start off with Deathbreaker, the album Isolate. This is a heavy album. It just starts off punching, just keeps punching all the way through. Probably one of my favorite tracks because they're very socially minded. Um, uh, Pretty much all the tracks are. But Choke is probably my favorite track. We're actually going to play that at the end of the show, so you can check that out. But number five, Deathbreaker, Isolate.
Cool deal, man. Cool deal. My number five, and I have a mix of CHH and Christian rock. And so my number five made so many people's top five list of albums last year in the CHH world. I went with Lecrae, Restoration. I felt like it was a solid album.
Is he still doing music?
He's still doing music. He is still doing
Oh,
music,
wow.
and this album was good. In a year of so much sexual, explicit, and derogatory music hitting the top of the charts, it was good to see
Mhm.
Lecrae come out and glorify God, talk about his struggles, and kind of renewing his faith in a way and just finding God in the midst of turmoil. That was kind of the whole entire theme behind restoration was restoring him, bringing him back to the Father in a new way. And that's the thing that I kind of liked about it is it wasn't just restoration like back to what he was, where he was broken from, but it was like
Right.
a butterfly coming out of a cocoon in a way. And so the album was good. There was only like two songs in the album that just weren't my style. The rest of them I dug. I was able to vibe to and really appreciate. He had some really great solid songs on there, and those for me just worked really well with this album. So Lecrae Restoration is my number five. So how about our number four? Because we got the same one.
Okay. Well, speaking of tracks that don't necessarily work, this album has one track on it that just absolutely does not work for me. I I, I don't even know where to go with it. Anyway, it's
Yeah, we're gonna
Disciple,
just
Love Letter, Kill Shot, Cuff the Criminal does not work for me, but the rest of the album is great.
yeah.
I love exactly where they're going with this album. I love that they are talking about mental health, and it is just so important. Very timely album. But Panic Room,
Yeah.
yeah, best best track on the album. Yep.
That might be one of the best tracks of the whole year. I think that might be.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
close to it. It's close to it. It's
Man, I don't
close to
know.
it.
Yeah,
You don't know? You don't know?
I would say that it's Disciples' best track to date.
Okay. All right. Well, I also had it on
So,
my list. I listened to it multiple times over and over again. And Panic Room is definitely one of those songs you got to go back to and listen to. And, agree. They talked about very important things. And I think it's great to be able to do that. And some people are kind of like, oh, I'm so tired of everybody talking about, I don't know. I don't really call it a social issue, but a like pop culture type of issue because everybody in culture was talking about mental health, and I just like hearing Christians step into and speak from a biblical principle on a lot of these matters that the world is talking about.
mm,
So I
yeah.
think that's really important, and for disciples to do that, especially with and even with the song "Misery," I really appreciated their take on that topic. So make sure you go check out Disciples' "Love Letter Kill Shot." So number three, Sean.
Well, again, keeping with social topics, relatively new band, American Arson, made my list for number three. Yes, actually beat out Disciple.
That's
I'll
big.
be honest with you.
That's big.
I'll be honest with you. It was a toss up there. To be honest with you,
Okay.
I've really been rocking this album. Their sound is just it's very creative. It's different from most anything else that you're going to listen to. It's still I would say I would put it more still as a rock album than a metal album. But from Wolfpack to Huddled Masses to the worship track, "The King Is Alive," is just I mean, it exemplifies their diversity. But they really talk about some pretty heavy stuff in their songs, and from child sex slavery to racism. I mean, it's just all over the place. They really want to make sure that they try to have a message in their songs that hopefully was reaching out to people, and it does, and they do it in a really cool way. So
That's cool, man. I have to check them out. I don't know if I've listened to most of their stuff, so I definitely have to check them out. My number three is from one of my favorite artists, period, and that is Jared Sanders. Hope is Dope too. So obviously this is a sequel
right.
to his other Hope is Dope album, but he came out strong with this one. I love his rapping is top notch. He's just one of the best rappers to date, and I just love the even the lead singles we played on this show, and just the concept behind how he came out. He did the T-shirt, and it was one of my favorite releases in general. He had the Hope Is Dope T-shirt, which I actually got, which is like the Spider-Man one. So I thought it was really cool. It was a great album, and I had it at number three because my number two was also him, but we'll wait for that one. And so, Sean, what is your number two?
He released two albums in 1 year.
Uh, three projects.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah. So,
that's impressive. Okay, all
your
right.
number two.
Number two. This is probably the biggest surprise album for me, and this is why it ranked up so high. Plus the fact that it is one of two albums that plays regularly on my turntable, and that's Red Declaration. I've said before, I felt like Red had kind of fallen into this like skillet kind of category where album after album it sounded the same. There were maybe a couple little standout tracks here and there. This album, by far, just from start to finish, it's exemplary. Infidel, Carter Eyes, All for You, Evening Hate. I think I'm a little less so on it, only because they played that a lot. It was their first
Yeah.
single from it. But Sever, From the Ashes, it's such a killer album, and I can rock to it all day long.
Yeah, man. I love it. I can't really talk about it too much. I will in a second, though. My
Oh,
number. Yeah. My number two is Jared Sanders' Black Friday 3, Mama Mentality. The rapping on this one is just like Hope is Dope 2 had fantastic songs. This one has even more fantastic rapping. Just, you know, I don't know, man. There's not a whole lot that I can really say about it. That I don't know. It's kind of a loss of words. Like it's just a really dope mixtape. The only thing that a lot of people complained about was it was hard to access because you had to download the GOM Plus app. You had to download it from the app, and I had to like click the link. Well, I had to download it, click the link, send it to myself, and then download it on my computer. It took a lot of jumping through some hoops to get to it, but me, it was totally worth it. Anybody who didn't want to go through the work process to get the album doesn't deserve the album. And
Oh,
I thought it was fantastic. He did a great job. He rapped his head off. His singles from it were fantastic. Like the Cappin was great. Kid Freestyle was great. And even the last song with the Saga, the more slow vibe type of thing. It was almost more like a worship track. Just everything he does, man, is just gold, which is why I loved having him on my album, which didn't make my list. I was going to put it on my list, but I didn't.
would have been sort of self-serving, right?
Right. But it's kind of on
Yeah.
my honorable mention in a way. So let's go to your number one, sir.
All right, number one album. I was so stoked when I finally got this on vinyl. It's and currently I can see it from here. It's on my turntable. It's in Coke bottle colored vinyl. Um, Fit for King's The Path.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
I've been a fan of Fit for a King, but this album it just outdoes everybody. There's really not a track on it that I don't care for. Some that obviously I like a lot better. We played Breaking the Mirror here on the show. God of Fire is an excellent track. Face of Hate, Annihilation, Ladder of Voice, Stockholm is a killer track. It's just it goes on, man. All 10 tracks on this album are well worth buying the album. Just go ahead and buy the full album. Don't buy the individual singles. Just get the whole album. There's just nothing better. Fit for a King has found their groove between the the screaming, the growling to the sung lyrics that just help convey the message in each of their tracks. It's just amazing. I think that their sound has grown and matured. They've gotten a lot more complex, but then also still keeping true to their heavy roots, man. So anyway, Fit for a King, The Path.
Awesome, man. So my number one was actually Red Declaration.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was surprising, especially listening to the last few albums. It was like, oh man, we're gonna have another. This album hit hard, man. It hit hard.
Yeah.
Uh, some of my favorite tracks, was it Only Fight, Victim. There was just some different vocal performances that were brought out that I thought just really stood out. The music, the guitars, just the
The
heaviness.
guitars totally matured in this album.
The Evening Hate Again is, like you said, is actually my least favorite. It was more soft, and I actually didn't like Cauterize that much. I wish
What?
I did because everybody loves it. Uh,
Oh, I love
I
that
mean, it's
track.
okay. Like I like no, don't get me wrong. I like the song. I just don't love it
Right.
as much as I love the other songs.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but in general, though, it's just not everybody has to like the same thing, and that's one thing we all have to just agree to disagree on sometimes. But only fight.
It's okay. Only one of us can be right, and I don't mind being right all the time. So
Yeah, you got to hand that title over sometimes. And
only to my daughter.
yeah, man. But I was trying to look up the other songs on here. Um, Let me see. Infidel was really great. Float was
Yeah.
good. The Victim, Only Fight,
Mhm.
even Several was good. And
Yeah.
The War We Made, that was all right as well. And just all of them were really good, man. I really appreciated the album. I thought they came in strong. Hopefully, they move on to the next album with this same intensity and
Right.
the same creativity because I feel like some of their old stuff, it just felt like they had one plane that they stayed on the whole album, and I was
Right.
just like, please get that out of my face. And
Yeah.
on this one, I was like, just give me some more. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's my number one album. We'd love to hear your top five albums from 2020, and all these were, I want to say, every single one of these were all full length. Um, I'm pretty sure they
All,
were.
all of mine were for sure.
So yeah, man,
Yeah.
there were some great EPs
Well,
too last year.
I did have a couple of honorable mentions. I
Yeah,
can't. I couldn't do this without having an honorable mention for August Burns Red's Guardians.
yeah,
It, you know, I any metal fans out there can be like, dude, what do you mean that wasn't your number one? No, it wasn't my number one. I love the album. I love listening to the vinyl. It's great. Um, it is standard ABR for the most part. It is taken up a little bit of a notch. So it's a great solid album. But I felt like these others came out stronger and more creative. So that's why it made an honorable mention. Also, I'm not even real sure how to classify these guys. Forced of Iniquity. Um, I've been playing it a lot lately. They have an album called Within Thy Wounds, and it is largely instrumental. There are some vocals, but it's think of it sort of like a meditative death metal. I don't like I said I don't
meditative
know,
death
man.
metal.
Yeah, it's when my eyes get really sore from staring at a screen all day, and I just need to chill out for a minute and just take a break, take the glasses off. I'll put them on and just I don't know. I kind of find my peaceful spot. So
Cool. I just gotta say one thing. It's the lead singer
nope,
from August Burns Red, Jake
yeah,
Lurs. Is that how you say it?
yeah,
He
yeah,
was actually, I saw him on a bodybuilder.com video because he stays fit. He's a
yeah.
very fit guy, stays in shape. And it was just cool to see a Christian metal lead singer, be shown on a bodybuilder. Uh, it was a YouTube video. I just thought it was interesting. It was cool to see him up there. So
Well, actually, a lot of Christian metal bands, a lot of the members, it's kind of a thing now, I guess, is to be really physically fit. So,
yeah, and I mean, obviously, one, you want to stay in shape because when you're jumping around stage, things like that, you got to be able to
sure.
breathe. So I get it.
Well,
I get it.
well, and just touring, it's easy to get flabby and weak. So,
True. True that.
because I know Kevin from Disciple has been on a great workout routine, at least since Long Live the Rebels that I know of. So,
Yeah. Yeah, man. But that's our round five. Again, give us your top five albums of 2020 in the comments wherever you're watching this at. We'll be back with another segment. Make sure you stay tuned.